what has been prepared by my team, what the papers detail, and importantly, we also go outside and we get into the social life, into the lifestyle aspect, understanding matters health, matters relationships, matters finances. And this morning we'll be getting into the world of beauty, but also in a healthy way. And so we'll also be giving you tips of how to look good. What are some of the processes that you are supposed to go through to ensure that your skin is perfect? So make sure that you keep it right here. We have lots lined up for you, and like I said, it's always a pleasure doing it. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47KE. Tell us what it is that is happening around you, what you think we need to discuss, and also be part and parcel of the discussions of the day. Remember, like I said earlier on, it is State of the Nation. We look at all the politics. I mean, what is happening with BBI at a time when President Uhuru Kenyatta has officially said, let's close all the sessions in Parliament. I mean, what does it mean? Does it alter the process? We'll be looking at that. Importantly, we'll be looking at the formations that are likely to culminate right after the BBI sails through. But will it sail through? Also, the Supreme Court argues that this process of a referendum will not be conducted in the country until that time when we have all the 7 cases that lie on their head, on the head of the BBI, are listened to and deliberated on. So all this, what does it mean? And the coming in of these coalitions, what are the possibilities of a Raila-Ruto coalition? What are the possibilities that the One Alliance coalition is likely to actually counter what it is that the DP is affronting, that is in the hustler narrative? All this we discuss right here alongside my guest, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni. We'll be having Dr. Barak Muluka as always, and the Speaker for Nyeri County, that is John Kagusha. Indeed, an incredible show lined up for you. So make sure that you keep it right here as I take you through. First, what is in the papers? We have the People Daily, we have the Daily Nation, and yes, that's what we'll be looking at this morning. And so here we are with the Daily Nation. Front page of the Daily Nation, Uhuru under pressure to ease pain. What pain is this that we're talking about? Intense lobbying for the head of state to make sure that he eases some of the COVID-19 lockdown measures announcement, or those ones that he announced on Friday. And tourism sector players, they say that the containment measures, will put them to risk, or has already put them to about 1.3 million jobs at risk, and suggest that a lesser punitive safety plan should be incorporated to save this likely to dwindle or already dwindling sector. That is a story captured on page 4 and 5. Just how best will the people welcome this? Many have argued that, well, indeed, the measures are worth towards ensuring that we have a healthy nation, but that is not what it is that plays out right now, especially when the economy is hugely damaged. And there we are. We'll be looking at that also. We get to have the view of the guests that we have on board in regards to this. What do they think? Do they suggest, or do they suppose that indeed that was a good move by President Uhuru Kenyatta? Some of the areas or the sectors that have been hugely affected, that is the tourism sector and the transport sector. The income and that is the Federation of Employers says that impact of the lockdown will be immediate, far-reaching to matters income and how people are able to get these monies. And well, the aspect of sports also has been hugely affected, and not to forget matters education. Students sent home at schools, or as schools, colleges and universities close indefinitely. What does it mean? Well, we can only wait to see at this point when the numbers continue to go high on matters COVID-19. Well, yesterday a slight decrease from what has been the previous week. But then again, the question is just what then needs to be done to ensure that we create that balance, that as we take care of our lives, we also don't forget to ensure that, the activities in the country are moving for the benefit of the people. Blow to Raila's as a BBI runs into fresh turbulence. That's a story that has been captured on page 10. The new containment measures to curb the spread of COVID-19 that were announced by President Uhuru Kenyatta on Friday will equally affect the timelines for the BBI. And that is in regards to when the referendum, or whether the referendum will be conducted, deadline, or dealing a fresh blow to its chief proponent, ODM leader Raila Odinga. Well, yesterday at a meeting of the House Joint Justice and Legal Affairs Committee considering the Constitution of Kenya, failed to take off under unclear circumstances. That's a story captured on page 10. Remember, the hearing was supposed to be done on the 1st of April, just to, you know, for these committees to present the document, and therefore this means that there are likelihoods that such will be altered. Equally, not forgetting that declaration by the Supreme Court, and so we also be discussing this later on the broadcast. Matters are, you know, still, of course, on how the churches have been affected, or maybe the places of worship have been affected hugely. And well, Christians marked Palm Sunday, and across the country, well, they took into the feast of commemorating, but of course in a different way in comparison to what played out last year, as of course most of them were not allowed to be in church. A story captured on page 17. So in their own respective places, at home, you know, online, following the proceedings in their different churches. And exams expose full crisis of schoolgirl pregnancies. We also discussed this sometimes last week, you know, painting a terrible picture of what, you know, the country is like, or the society is like, at a point where most of the students actually had to sit for their exams while pregnant, some of them just after giving birth, some of them, you know, going to give birth, you know, at a time when the examinations were still ongoing. And a lot of, questions being raised as to how best we can ensure that we protect the girl child. The ongoing four exams have equally exposed the depth of the teen pregnancies, or the pregnancy crisis that sits here, and with hundreds of candidates sitting their papers in maternity wards. Well, the Education Ministry is yet to reveal the number of pregnant teens, but checks in individuals' counties indicate that thousands of schoolgirls could soon be mothers. What does that mean? Well, but importantly is the fact that they have been allowed an environment that is friendly enough for them to be able to proceed and, you know, sit for their respective examinations, something that, you know, very many people have lauded. But even questions continue to be raised as to how best they can be gotten to that point where, you know, they do not feel comfortable, or girls do not feel comfortable that after all they'll be allowed that environment to proceed and do their examinations and, you know, enjoy life just like any other girl. Because then in a huge way they say this would be a catalyst to more cases. Another big story here: 1 million Kenyans could get COVID-19 by June. A story captured on page 6, and researchers say peak will be in April. So remember to make sure that you keep the guard high, keep a social distance, wash your hands always, sanitize if you're not close to water and soap, and importantly have your mask on. All these guidelines set, while they could be tough, you know, are necessary for us to be able to deal with such. And 5G network answers to your pressing questions. A story captured on page 3. You need to also look at that. Yes, if you're a lover of technology, you know very well how instrumental this would be in terms of creating that growth. And meanwhile, as we get a hold of, you know, the People Daily as it opens up, let's see what is captured on page 2. When life gives you lemons, you use that to create or to make lemonade. Well, the tough times, the situations that are here, and you are advised that, well, in as much as it's hard, make sure that you go out of your way to make it easy for yourself. Just get creative, do something different. It does not cost you anything. It's never that serious after all, in as much as the times are tough. Homeboys fined about 1 million in a talk show controversy. This is a story that has been ongoing for the better part of the weekend. And yes, the aspect of gender balance or gender violence, the aspect of gender is out here as we get to just have answers. Now, the Communications Authority of Kenya has fined Radio Africa's group, Homeboys Radio, about 1 million, and suspended a controversial morning show for 6 months. And there you go. It's incumbent upon us to be careful and to be sensitive, especially when we're addressing these matters of society. And so that is also something that we've been following up. And the question is just there: how balanced are we in some of the debates that we conduct? It's a developing story. We keep pondering on the same, and people weighing in their respective sentiments. To the People Daily, Tuju once 6 senators struck off list after tribunal nod. A story captured on page 16, still in regards to the jumbles within the Jubilee Party. And we'll be following up on that later on as we proceed with the broadcast. Spain in rush for lockdown deadline. Public transport vehicle raise fares threefold after this desperate commuters mob and termini to travel to or out of restricted zone. A story captured on page 3, 4 and 5. And about 130,214 total cases of COVID-19 that have been registered so far, and recoveries stand at 91,754, and deaths stand at 2,117, while the numbers that were tested, about 1 million there, about 468 and 835. Those are the cases as it stands in the country so far. And we'll be looking at that, the ramifications of the orders that were given by President Uhuru Kenyatta and what needs to be done to avoid such occurrences. Handshake is as strong as ever, Oburu Odinga tells Raila's base. That's a story captured on page 2. We'll be looking at this and, the talks of the coalitions that are set to come up and just how likely is President Uhuru Kenyatta to support the Right Honorable Raila Odinga in the event that he declares his presidential bid. And there you go. Nzoia MD has 14 days to pay farmers. Sugarcane farmers contracted by Nzoia Sugar Company have given the managing director, Michael Makoha, about 14 days for them to be paid, led by Nzoia Outgrowers Company. The chairman, that is Christopher Sifuna. The farmers say they had not been paid for about 7 months now, just also painting a picture of how the situation is dire in the agricultural sector in the country and just how best this can be handled. Questions are raised as to the same. Also on this one, Homeboys Radio fined 1 million breakfast. Show suspended for 6 months. We've also touched on that, and so much so that has been captured, more or less the same stories as, of course, the Daily Nation. This one here. State launches guide to curb violent extremism in schools. Education Ministry security agencies say that rules to help teachers to detect, prevent radicalization as cases continue to rise. Also something that is indeed cause for alarm and needs to be addressed, coming at a time when the Ministry of Interior has given that order that the Dab and Kakuma be closed indefinitely. We'll also be getting to hear what it is that the panelists have to say as to that. Let's drop the newspaper review for a moment and look at what